Hi, this is Ali Ciardo, and I'd like to talk with you quickly about setting benchmarks for your brand or organization to measure success. So let's boil it down to the simplest form. As human beings, it's kind of in our natural tendency to compare ourselves to others or to compare ourselves to ourselves at another point in time. And for brands, it really works the same way. So for example, let's say as a human being, I'm looking to measure my own sense of fitness. So fitness as a goal is actually very vague. What does that mean? How do I measure if I'm actually improving my own fitness? So I might measure myself against a competitor, if you will, a friend who is similar in age or stature to myself, and I would have to pick something very specific to measure. So for example, I might measure how fast my mile is when I run, or how much I can bench press, or maybe what my weight is, for example. And if I want to measure against myself, I would take that measurement over time. So I would say, okay, this week I can run a mile in this many minutes. The next week it's improved by X amount. Or I could bench press this amount and the next week it's improved by X amount. So I'm comparing myself against myself over time, or I'm comparing myself against my so-called competitors or similar people or brands, if you will. So do you see what I'm getting at? So as a brand, basically we have the same choices. We can measure ourselves against our competitors who are similar to us, or we can measure ourselves against ourselves over time. Or ideally, we really want to do both. We want to look at how are we doing over time and how are we doing versus our competitors over time. So when it comes to measuring success, you can't work in a vacuum. You have to have benchmarks. You have to have a point of comparison to measure yourself against to make sure that you are actually progressing as a brand. And from there, you have to pick specific metrics. So if your overall goal is to improve, let's say my specific goal is to improve my mile time by 20% over X number of weeks. That's specific. And then what am I measuring? So I'm measuring the minutes that it takes me to run the mile. See, so you have a specific goal that ties back to particular metrics. And then so I could benchmark myself over time, my own improvement. And then with that, I can also benchmark the improvement of my competitors, my other runners, if you will, and how they're doing, so that I always have that gauge. So remember specific goals and always have a benchmark. And that's your tip of the week. Good luck.